Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Pep Talk. I want to thank those of you who've written me in the past couple of weeks to tell me that you find these Pep Talks encouraging and uplifting and valuable. I appreciate that, and I want you to know that nobody's got it all figured out. Everybody struggles, and I want to offer words of encouragement, but I'm not offering them from a place of being, high atop the mountain and bestowing my wisdom on other people. Um, we all muddle through every day as best we can, and sometimes we get some insights about it. We might find an idea or a saying that helps us get through, or an encounter with another person might offer us encouragement. And those are the kind of things that I like to share with you in these talks to give you some ideas that might help you cope with things that come up in life. And when I say over and over that nobody's got it all figured out, and it does look that way from the outside. We all know people, they might be friends or family members or people in the public eye that seem to have things all figured out. But I sincerely believe that life is a journey, life is a process of figuring things out, and that experience and getting knocked around a bit and recovering from it helps to strengthen our own sense of resilience and our own sense of wisdom, and helps us to trust ourselves better and to know that we can cope, and that when stuff happens in the future, we'll be able to cope with that too. And that sense of resilience, it often goes along with age, but doesn't always. I imagine we all know some really young people who've been through a lot in life and are very wise for their years and have had to strengthen that resilience muscle um, at a younger age. So again, I'm grateful that these are helpful to you. Um, I appreciate your encouragement, and I enjoy encouraging you. So with that, let's get into this week's topic. What I'm sharing here is a model for a way of thinking about the events that happen to us that will contribute most to our own peace of mind. When we find ourselves feeling overwhelmed and scared and frustrated and helpless, this way of sorting our thoughts can be useful. I have found it useful, and when stuff is happening to me, I do take a step back and try to think of it in this way, especially if I'm feeling overwhelmed and that I don't have any control over the situation. So in this model, the inner ring, the yellow circle, represents what you can control. So these are the things that are happening to you that you have direct control over, that you can change, that you can do something about, okay? The second circle, the green circle, is what you can influence. So these are things that may be beyond your personal control, but are still within the realm of influence of your life. So maybe somebody else has control over them, and you can appeal to that person for help. Maybe you can ask your teacher, or you can write your legislator or something like that. Those people might have influence over things that you cannot directly control, but they can. And then that outermost circle, the purple circle, that's the frustrating stuff. That's everything else. That's the stuff that's both outside of your control and your influence. And the way we think about the stuff in the purple circle is the real key, in my opinion, to our mental health and peace of mind. So let's take these one at a time. So let's start in the middle in that yellow circle with things you can control. And let's use the example of giving some sort of a presentation or speech. Okay, everybody's favorite thing to do, I know. So what can you control in that situation? Well, you can control how well prepared you are. You can control how well rehearsed you are. But beyond those things, there's a whole host of other things you have control over. You can make sure you get adequate sleep the night before and that you get a good breakfast that morning. You can choose the clothes you're going to wear the night before. You can build time into your schedule for a last minute run through before the presentation. So all of those things are within your realm of control. With my career in teaching, I am basically giving public presentations every day, and every day it's on different topics and different subject matter. So it's like preparing a one-act play multiple times a week. And I try to think of it this way too. What do I have control over? Well, I have control over how well I know my material, how well prepared I am, whether I arrive at the classroom with all of my materials in hand, if there are handouts or if there's an electronic presentation I'm going to make, or if there's an exam, that I have all the materials that I've planned to have with me for that day, and that I have reviewed them, and that I am ready to interact with my students and to be my best self with them. So that's a few examples of things that can go in that yellow circle. Now let's look at the stuff that's in the green circle, what we can influence, and we'll go back to that idea of public speaking. What are some things that you can't directly control, but you might be able to influence? Well, one of those things is if you like to speak from behind a lectern or a podium, you can try to get one put into the room for the day of your speech. You can ask your instructor, you can ask facilities, you can see if you can get a music stand brought in. You could bring in perhaps some kind of a tabletop stand that you could put your notes on. If that's important to you, it is within your circle of influence to try to arrange for that. It might not be within your direct control, but it is within your circle of influence. And the same thing applies to my teaching. For example, if I need certain kinds of technology in my classroom, I can request those things. I don't necessarily have direct control over that, but I can ask for it and try to make sure that it is put in place. Now let's tackle that outer circle, the purple one, that contains everything else, the stuff that's outside your control and influence. This is the danger zone. This is the stuff that can make us angry and frustrated and worried, and that we can't do anything about. So it's really going to take a hit on our peace of mind and our self-confidence. And it's fruitless to spend time in this purple area. And on an intellectual level, I think we know that, but letting go of that purple stuff is a constant challenge. It's something that I work on, being able to just kind of release it and, trust in myself and my own resiliency to deal with whatever might happen in that purple area. And if we go back to our public speaking example, or even teaching, things that might come in that purple area are things like, how many people are going to show up to your presentation? Or how many students are going to show up in class that day? I don't really have control over that. I have very little influence over it. It's going to be whatever it is. If it's a lecture of 100 people and only 10 show up, I'm going to give those 10 people my best just as I would the 100. So I can't let it throw me or let it influence me to give less than my best because there are people missing. Okay, are people going to be falling asleep? Are they going to be texting during the class? Are people going to be thinking about something other than the material that's being presented in class? Is their mind going to be elsewhere? Are they daydreaming? Are they concerned about something else? Are they not feeling well, so they're having a hard time paying attention? All of those things are outside your control and mine. So here's an example of how this model can work in someone's life. In my life, I was flying to a conference. I was going from the Columbus airport to San Francisco, but I had a connecting flight in Minneapolis. Okay, so we're going Columbus to Minneapolis to San Francisco. And there was freezing rain that day, so I controlled what I could control. I made sure I got to the Columbus airport on time. I had my boarding pass with me. I had checked my luggage. I had allowed extra time both for the weather and for getting through TSA and all that. So I had controlled what I could control. I'm sitting at the gate where my flight is supposed to board. In that situation, there's very little within your circle of influence. So I had really done everything I could and controlled everything I had agency over. Then we were notified that our flight was going to be delayed for 4 hours. And this was because the airport in Minneapolis, where our connecting flight was, they were having a blizzard in Minneapolis, right? So I have no control over this. I can't control the weather. I can't control anything. So I'm going to be sitting in this airport lounge in Columbus for 4 hours. And it was amazing how a lot of the people around me were angry and yelling and having adult temper tantrums and calling people on the phone and everything. And you know, I was just as put out as anybody else, but there's nothing I could do. There's nothing I can do. So getting upset about it was not going to change the situation. And that's a muscle that I try to exercise. The getting upset isn't going to change it muscle. So in that situation, you know, I had my iPad, I had my phone, I had adequate opportunity to charge both of those devices. I had a book to read. I could work on rehearsing my conference presentation, but I couldn't change my situation. So that situation definitely fell into the purple area, but like I said, that's the danger zone. That's the zone that can really damage our own happiness and peace of mind if we don't organize our thoughts around it properly. So I hope my sharing of this has sparked some ideas in you of how to maybe organize your own thoughts around some incidents in your own life that are frustrating you. And as you go through your day and things happen to you, I encourage you to ask yourself, okay, how much of this can I control and how much of this is outside of my control? And if it's outside of my control, I'm not going to invest my energy there. I wish you a wonderful week. Drop me a line. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.